Okay, let's talk about a financial mindset that basically flips the script on everything you've probably been taught. We're going to dive into the idea that the old rules, go to school, get a good job, save your money, stay out of debt, are not just a little outdated. They might actually be holding you back. And this right here, this is the bombshell quote from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, think about it. He's saying the exact path that most of us were told was the secret to a safe, secure life is now totally obsolete. This one idea is really the key to everything we're about to unpack. That's a huge claim, right? It just flies in the face of what our parents and grandparents told us. So what's the deal? Why is the advice that seemed to work for them suddenly the wrong path for us? Let's get into it. Well, according to Kiyosaki, the answer actually starts inside your own head. It really has less to do with how much money is in your bank account and way more to do with which voice you listen to when it's time to make a financial decision. So get this, the idea is that we all have three people living inside of us: a poor person, a middle-class person, and a rich person. Now that middle-class person is the one who's always screaming for security, for a steady paycheck. And the problem, as he sees it, is that our whole education system is designed to teach us to listen only to that one voice. And this is where you see that massive split in thinking. For the middle-class mindset, a paycheck is the ultimate security blanket. But from the rich dad point of view, it's one of the most damaging things you can possibly accept. It's two totally opposite ways of looking at the exact same thing. And here's why that's so important. A paycheck isn't just money, it's a mindset. The second you accept it, you become an employee. You're locked into that way of thinking, dependent on a system that you ultimately don't control. So this way of thinking naturally leads to what we can call the entrepreneur's leap. It's all about finding your strength, not from having a safety net, but from having the guts to operate without one. Kiyosaki tells this really powerful story about his own leap. On his last day working at Xerox, he got his final bonus check. And a colleague came up to him and said, "You're going to fail and you're going to be back." Kiyosaki looked at him and replied with something that completely defined his future. He said, "You're right. I'm going to fail, and I'm never coming back." And that's the attitude in a nutshell. It's not about trying to avoid failure. It's about being willing to fail and moving forward anyway. That pressure of having no money, no paycheck, it forces you to get smarter. It forces you to get hungrier. It's really a test of your character. Are you going to cheat and cut corners? Are you going to innovate and become better? Okay, so now we get to the really juicy and honestly the most controversial part of this whole philosophy. It's about understanding the rules the rich actually play by. And it boils down to using two things everyone else is terrified of: debt and taxes, as tools to build wealth. Right. The old, obsolete idea is get out of debt. We've all heard that a million times. But the rich dad idea is the complete opposite. Learn how to use debt to get rich. And here's a wild, real-world example of how that works. Kiyosaki took $300 million of his own debt and simply refinanced it. The interest rate he was paying dropped from 5% down to 2.5%. Think about what that does. His cost of money was cut in half, which means his monthly cash flow just exploded. He basically made a fortune just by changing the terms of his debt. And this really shows you the stark difference. The very same things, debt and taxes, have the complete opposite effect depending on how much you know about money. For the poor and middle class, they are a massive burden. But for the rich, they're incredibly powerful tools. Let's take taxes, for example. Picture a doctor, a super smart professional who makes a fantastic salary, say $1 million a year. They're doing exactly what we're told to do, working for money. So what happens? Well, because that doctor is an employee, even a really high-earning one, their tax bill on that $1 million income could be a jaw-dropping $750,000. Just gone. Now, in contrast, when Kiyosaki makes $1 million from his businesses and investments, how much does he say he pays in taxes? Zero, not a dime. So how on earth is that even possible? Well, it's about the flow. Instead of working for money, an entrepreneur builds a business. The business makes money, and that money gets invested into assets like real estate. And here's the kicker. The tax code is written to reward business owners and real estate investors, so they can use depreciation and other deductions from those assets to legally wipe out their tax bill, sometimes all the way down to zero. This all brings us to the final, and I think the most powerful point of all. You can't control the stock market or the global economy, but you have 100% absolute control over your internal economy. And that's the big shift in focus. Most people are completely focused on the outside world, worrying about the news, the markets, their job security. But an entrepreneur's focus is always internal. They know they can thrive in any economy because they control the only things that truly matter: their mindset, their skills, and their own choices. You know, when you have a strong internal economy, falling down isn't just okay, it's actually a good thing. Every single mistake becomes a lesson, and that resilience means you don't just get back up to where you were, you use what you just learned to bounce back even higher. There's this fantastic analogy Kiyosaki uses. He says, look, we all check the expiration date on a carton of milk, right? We wouldn't dare drink it if it was past its prime. But how often do we stop and check the expiration date on our ideas, especially our ideas about money? And really, that's the question to leave you with. In a world that's changing this fast, holding on to old ideas about money isn't the safe bet anymore. It might just be the riskiest thing you can do. So you have to ask yourself, are my financial ideas about to expire?